Hey everyone, so let's talk about fat loss and food. Because honestly, there's so much confusion out there that I think we need to just cut through all the noise and look at what the actual research says. Because here's the thing, there's no magical food that's going to melt fat off your body overnight, but there are certain foods that make fat loss significantly easier because of how they affect your hunger, your metabolism, and your hormones. So let's get into it. First, I want to talk about protein. Because if there's one thing that the scientific literature is absolutely crystal clear on, it's that protein is your best friend when you're trying to lose fat. And I'm not just saying that because it sounds good. The data on this is overwhelming. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that people who increased their protein intake to about 30% of their total calories experienced a spontaneous reduction in calorie intake of about 441 calories per day. They weren't even trying to eat less. They just naturally felt more satisfied and ate less. That's huge. But here's what's even more interesting. When you're losing weight, your body doesn't just burn fat. It also burns muscle, which is exactly what you don't want. Because muscle is metabolically active tissue that helps you burn more calories at rest. Research shows that high protein intake can reduce muscle loss during weight loss by up to 50%. A meta-analysis looking at over 40 studies found that people who consumed higher protein during calorie restriction maintained significantly more lean muscle mass compared to those eating lower protein. So what does high protein actually mean? Most studies show benefits. When people eat somewhere between 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. For someone who weighs 70 kilograms, that's about 112 to 154 grams per day. Good sources include chicken breast, fish, Greek yogurt, eggs, and even plant-based options like lentils and tofu. Now let's talk about something that revolutionized how we understand fat loss fiber. There's this fascinating study from the Annals of Internal Medicine, where researchers told one group of people to follow a complex diet with tons of rules, and they told another group to do just one thing: eat at least 30 grams of fiber per day. That's it. No calorie counting, no food restrictions, just hit 30 grams of fiber. After a year, the fiber-only group lost a significant amount of weight, almost as much as the complex diet group. And here's the kicker, they were way more likely to stick with it. Because it was so simple. Fiber works for fat loss in multiple ways. First, it physically takes up space in your stomach, making you feel fuller with fewer calories. Second, it slows down digestion, which means you stay satisfied longer and don't get those energy crashes that make you reach for snacks. Third, certain types of fiber called soluble fiber actually form a gel in your digestive system that can reduce fat absorption. A study in the Journal of Nutrition found that for every 10-gram increase in soluble fiber intake, people had 3.7% less visceral fat, which is that dangerous belly fat that surrounds your organs. The best high-fiber foods for fat loss include things like oats, beans, lentils, berries, apples with the skin on, broccoli, and chia seeds. 1 cup of cooked lentils gives you about 15 grams of fiber, so you're already halfway to that 30-gram target with just one meal component. Let me talk about something that might surprise you: whole eggs. For years, people were terrified of egg yolks because of cholesterol concerns, but the research has completely shifted on this. A study published in the International Journal of Obesity compared people who ate eggs for breakfast versus those who ate bagels with the same number of calories. The egg group lost 65% more weight and had an 83% greater reduction in waist circumference. Eggs are incredibly satiating because they're high in protein and contain healthy fats that signal fullness hormones in your body. Now I want to address something that gets misunderstood all the time: healthy fats. Yes, fat has more calories per gram than protein or carbs, but certain fats can actually help with fat loss because of how they affect your appetite. Foods like avocados, nuts, fatty fish, and olive oil contain fats that slow gastric emptying, meaning food stays in your stomach longer and you feel satisfied for extended periods. There's this interesting study from the Journal of the American Heart Association where researchers found that people who added avocado to their meals experienced a significant reduction in hunger for up to 5 hours afterward. Another study on almonds found that people who ate them as snacks naturally compensated by eating less at subsequent meals, and the net calorie increase was only about 55% of what you'd expect based on the almond calories alone. If you're enjoying this breakdown of what actually works for fat loss, go ahead and hit that like button, because it genuinely helps more people find evidence-based information like this. Let's talk about leafy greens and non-starchy vegetables, because these are basically a cheat code for fat loss. Spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini, peppers. These foods have such a low calorie density that you can eat enormous portions and barely make a dent in your daily calorie intake. One study found that people who ate a large salad before their main meal consumed significantly fewer total calories during that meal, even though they were eating more total food volume. Here's a really practical example. A cup of cooked broccoli has about 55 calories. A cup of cooked pasta has about 220 calories. You could literally eat 4 cups of broccoli for the same calories. As 1 cup of pasta, understanding calorie density helps you structure meals where you're full and satisfied, while naturally eating fewer calories. I also need to mention Greek yogurt, specifically the plain versions without added sugar. Greek yogurt is protein-dense, contains probiotics that support gut health, and is incredibly versatile. A study in the journal Nutrition found that people who ate yogurt regularly lost more fat and maintained more muscle during calorie restriction compared to those who didn't eat yogurt, even when total calories and protein were matched. Researchers think the combination of protein, calcium, and probiotics might have unique benefits for body composition. Now let's talk about something that applies to all foods: the concept of whole foods versus processed foods. There's a landmark study from the National Institutes of Health where researchers gave people 2 diets with identical calories: protein, fat, and carbs. But one was made from whole foods and the other from ultra-processed foods. The people eating ultra-processed foods consumed about 500 more calories per day and gained weight, while the whole foods group lost weight. The researchers observed that people eating processed foods ate faster and didn't feel as full, leading them to unconsciously overeat. This is why foods like steel-cut oats, quinoa, sweet potatoes, and brown rice can be great for fat loss, even though they're carb-heavy. They're minimally processed, high in fiber, and digest slowly, keeping you satisfied. Compare that to something like white bread or sugary cereal, which are quickly digested and leave you hungry an hour later. Berries deserve a special mention here. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries are low in calories, high in fiber, and packed with antioxidants. A cup of strawberries has only about 50 calories, but provides 3 grams of fiber. They're also incredibly satisfying because of their water content and natural sweetness, making them a perfect dessert replacement. I want to quickly mention legumes like black beans, chickpeas, and kidney beans. These are nutritional powerhouses for fat loss because they combine protein and fiber in one package. Studies show that people who regularly eat legumes tend to weigh less and have smaller waist circumferences than those who don't, even without consciously restricting calories. Here's something important to understand. No single food will make or break your fat loss progress. What matters is your overall eating pattern and whether you can maintain a calorie deficit without feeling miserable and deprived. The foods I've mentioned work because they help you feel full and satisfied, while naturally eating fewer calories. They preserve your muscle mass, and they're foods you can actually stick with long-term. The biggest mistake people make is treating fat loss like a temporary diet instead of building sustainable eating habits. The people who successfully lose fat and keep it off are the ones who build their eating around foods that are both nutritious and satisfying. So if I had to summarize the best approach, it would be to build your meals around high-protein foods, load up on non-starchy vegetables, include fiber-rich carbs like oats and legumes, add moderate amounts of healthy fats, and focus on whole foods that you actually enjoy eating. That combination naturally leads to eating fewer calories, without feeling like you're starving yourself. If you want more evidence-based content on nutrition and what actually works for fat loss and health, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.